So let's look at the individual test now. First, I want to look at the automatic overseas test. And under this test, the legislation sets out 5 tests. However, from a practical perspective, there are really only 2 tests here. One is totting up days spent in the UK, and the other identifying whether one works abroad on a full-time basis or not. So the day count test will differ depending on whether we are talking about someone leaving the UK, so a leaver, or someone coming to the UK, or a visitor. When we count days, it's worth noting, we are usually totting up presents at midnight. A visitor is automatically non-UK resident if his days in the UK for the tax year are less than 46. However, a leaver presents a slightly more complex position, and the general rule is that he or she will be non-UK resident if his or her days in the UK are less than 16. I did mention about days basically being ticked off if you are present at midnight. There are some circumstances where single day visits to the UK where there is no presence at midnight can also count towards the tally. So let's move on to the full-time work abroad category. In the pre-statutory residency test days, this was often, so in my experience, the most certain method of becoming non-UK residents. And when they brought in the residency test on statutory footing, it was good to see it survived relatively unscathed. However, this test is a little more complex. But anyway, looking at it, first of all, as an individual, you must meet essentially a threshold condition which requires 2 things. That the number of midnights spent by the individual in the UK is less than 91, and the number of days doing 3 hours of work or more in the UK needs to be less than 31. So assuming the threshold test is met, we then need to determine whether the overseas work is full-time or not. And this is probably a overly laborious test, but if you're working 9 to 5 days a week for a foreign employer, then you're likely to satisfy it. Where your work is a bit more sort of ad hoc, a bit more informal, then you need to apply the test in full. So hopefully that summarises the position under the automatically overseas test. If you meet one of the tests I've just set out, then there's no need to continue. You're done and dusted. Your SRT journey is over. But if you have not satisfied one of those, then you need to firstly look at whether you're automatically in the UK. We'll come to that in the next video. And then the sufficient ties test. Again, we'll look at that separately. If you like this video and the others, then please do give me a follow and feel free to post any comments or queries below. I will try and answer them the best that I can, but for now, thank you very much.